You think micro stakes are your stepping stone to poker glory. But what if I told you the smallest games online are actually a trap designed to keep you stuck forever? Today, we are breaking open the truth nobody wants to admit about playing micro-stakes poker. Let's start with a recent comment from Uri Peleg, a respected Upswing Poker coach who publicly stated that his advice for studying at micro-stakes is simple: do not play micro-stakes. His exact words, "For poker to be real, you need to care about the money." Uri's argument is devastating in its logic. Micro-stakes does not represent real poker at all. The games below NL25 are filled with players who don't think, don't study, and don't play actual strategy. You're essentially practicing against opponents who are playing a completely different game than what you'll face at higher stakes. He even went further, saying that if you only have $100 to $200 to spare, you probably should not be playing poker at all. He called it the poor person's mentality, the idea that you can slowly grind your way up from NL2. His advice: get an actual job, making $10 per hour at least, save $1,000, and buy a poker course, and start at NL25, where the game actually resembles real poker. Let that sink in. A professional poker coach is telling aspiring poker players that grinding micro stakes is such a waste of time that you'd be better off working at McDonald's. That's not motivational, that's an intervention. But here's the fundamental problem with being a micro stakes grinder. The rake structure is specifically designed to ensure you never escape. At NL2, PokerStars takes 5% of every pot up to a certain cap. One Reddit user calculated that at micro stakes, rake can take up to 50% of a winning player's EV. Another user shared detailed stats from 4.4 million hands. He stated that players invested a total of $45,000 over the course of those 4.4 million hands. The card room raked in 57% of that money, and the rake amounted to 11.7 big blind per 100 hands. You're not playing poker, you are donating to the card room's retirement fund while they graciously let you keep the scraps. The math is absolutely brutal. If you are a solid winner at micro stakes, which means you are better than 80% of the competition, you might win 10 big blind per 100 hands. At NL2, that's 20 cents per 100 hands. To make $10 an hour, you will need to play 5,000 hands. That's physically impossible without multi-tabling 24 tables like a machine and developing the kind of tunnel vision that destroys your ability to think strategically. And here's where Uri Peleg's argument becomes undeniable. Even if you successfully grind micro stakes, what are you actually learning? You are learning to exploit terrible players who call with any two cards, who do not understand pot odds, who go all in with middle pair. Then you move up to NL25 and suddenly you are facing players who actually study, who balance their ranges, who punish your exploitative tendencies. You have trained yourself to play against calling stations, and now you are facing thinking opponents. The lazy thought process you develop crushing micro stakes becomes a liability the moment you face real competition. And the psychological toll is devastating. Studies on multi-table poker grinders found that after grinding 50-hour weeks for 3 months straight, successful players started making basic mathematical errors and felt physically ill just looking at poker tables. And if you try to take a break, guess what happens to your bankroll? Well, nothing actually, but your missed income represents money that should have been yours, which means you feel guilty for recovering from the burnout you caused yourself. There's no winning move here. And we haven't even talked about bots. At the lowest micro stakes, nobody knows if you're actually playing against humans or just software programs that have been optimized to destroy weak players. Players have documented absurd volume numbers, 270,000 hands in less than 2 months at stakes so low that no sane human would play them. Either these are the most dedicated grinders in poker history, or the micro stakes are infested with bots that are slowly learning to crush the entire poker ecosystem. If you somehow get lucky to beat micro stakes and actually accumulate a bankroll, congratulations. You are now facing the most dangerous mental challenge of your poker life, which is moving up the stakes. The standard advice is to have at least 30 to 50 buy-ins before moving up to the next level. But the problem is that the moment you move up, the skill difference becomes immediately apparent. You move from NL5 to NL10 with your $500 bankroll, feeling confident, and then suddenly you are facing players who are winning the same amount you were winning but at a harder level. You go from crushing 10 big blind per 100 hands to barely scraping 3 big blind per 100 hands at NL10 because the competition is more competent. Your edge has shrunk dramatically, your hourly rate has dropped, and now you are grinding for even few dollars per hour than before. The worst part about being a micro stakes grinder is that you are completely trapped. You are not good enough to make real money playing higher stakes, but you are also too self-aware to pretend like you are happy grinding $7 an hour for the rest of your life. The massive majority of online poker players play micro and low stakes for a reason, because they are not good enough to move up. There is a huge skill gap between each level, and most grinders will hit their skill ceiling and plateau at some limit forever. Another enemy of the micro stakes grinder is variance. We all know variance is present in poker in every stake, but at micro stakes, the variance is on steroids. You could play perfectly for 10,000 hands and still lose money because variance works both ways. There is a 17% chance that even a winning player with a win rate of 3 big blind per 100 hands will face a downswing of 5,000 big blinds. The opportunity cost is also astronomical. You could be learning literally any other skill, working literally any other job, and making exponentially more money. But instead, you are grinding micro stakes for reasons that made sense 3 years ago but don't make sense anymore. Here's the real kicker. Even if you somehow beat the system, move up to mid stakes, and finally start making decent money, you have spent 5 years grinding away your 20s or 30s in a way that has zero marketability. You have developed no skills that any employer would value. Your resume is just, I played poker for 40 hours a week at various stakes. The moment you decide to quit poker for any reason, you are essentially starting your career over from zero. So let's recap. Professional poker coaches are publicly stating that micro stakes are a waste of time. The rake structure is designed to ensure you can barely profit. The skills you learn do not transfer to higher stakes. The opportunity cost is immense. You are mentally burnt out from making thousands of decisions daily. You are socially isolated. You are accumulating zero marketable skills. The edges are smaller than ever, and you are doing this for years with virtually zero chance of making real money. But I don't want to discourage you from playing micro stakes. Many successful players started at micro stakes and worked their way up over with time and dedication and proper bankroll management.
I convinced my parents to throw $50 online on my Paradise Poker account and never look back.
The journey is real, the struggle is real, but so are the success stories. Please grind responsibly, and remember that having a backup plan is probably a good idea.